Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chord-O-Coaching, the series where you get a look inside Magic Limited Coaching. I'm Alex, joined once again by our good friend Nathan. Nathan, how are the streets treating you this week?
I think in general it's treating me very well. I think a lot of that is I did a lot of my play testing or getting into the format pretty early, I guess, before your podcast and all the other podcasts came out, and it just so happens that my very first seal that I opened as practice had I think five Bant rares or Brokers rares, and so I was like, this color seems good, and then my first drafts are in that, but now that I think the format's evened out a little bit or at least people are, in that colors, it's been a little bit harder.
Yep.
And so I've enjoyed it so far, but I think, I've only had, I think, seven drafts so far. So
Yeah, so benefiting from some lucky intuition or maybe just lucky luck
I think just
early
luck.
on.
I don't think
Yeah.
I'm smart enough to say like these colors are way better. I think it was just pure luck.
Yeah, so I think, that happens a lot too, right? Just like, you do stumble upon the best deck early on, and then you win a lot early, and then it can be tough, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are experiencing this. Just like, well, what do I do when I can't get into brokers? And you haven't told me too much about this draft, but you've told me it is a non-brokers draft. So I'm really excited to get into this. It's going to be interesting to navigate. Let's just jump in. So for those who have not seen a Chord-O-Coaching video before, what we do as Nathan sends me his draft video here that he's done. He's recorded it, and I give him for each pick a one of three rankings for his picks, or one of three ratings. Either a agree, that was a thumbs up pick, I agree with it, Nathan. A disagree, which is a, I don't really agree with it, but it's a fine pick. I would have done something different. Or a mistake, one I think pretty much, as objectively as I can be, I would say, I don't think you should have done that, Nathan. I think there's a much better card in the pack. So you can play along at home, which is kind of cool. You can see what I might say beforehand. And Nathan, let's just jump in. So what does this pack give us? What jumps on the page from you?
So I've had good luck with Broker's Charm, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, I've had Dusk Mangler be strong against me a few times, and I was impressed with that card. Light 'em up, just the cheaper removal. I, it's okay. I think, if the casualty was lower, I probably uh, would be more interested in that card.
hmm
And then there's always, the Tri-Land, the Broker's Hideout. And so I ended up landing on the Broker's Hideout, but I wasn't really sure about this one.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. If I'm so, often we look at these drafts from a very, if I'm to take the absolute most correct thing, you're looking at the obscure ascendancy up there, and the absolute most correct pick, right, for a draft. If I was sitting down at an arena open, let's say, I think broker title probably is the best thing. It's the most flexible. That being said, I think that like you could take Dusk Mangler. That's in the conversation. You could take the Charm as well. I think you'd probably want to take the land over the Charm this early, but I think any three of those are totally serviceable, and I totally agree. I would take the broker title myself.
Yeah, I didn't mention the Ascendancy. I had to read that a couple times, and like, this does not seem good.
No, it's kind of a fun card. I have played it to medium success and been beaten by it, but no, I do not think it's a card you should take early. All right, moving on to pack two here. What do we see?
So I have zero experience with or against Corpse Explosion.
hmm
It doesn't seem like a great removal spell because you just need something in the yard already, and if you're trying to do an early removal, it didn't seem strong, so I skipped that. The Pyre Sledge Arsonist, it seems good if you already have the Sacrifice Enablers. That card I've played against once or twice, and it was a house against me. I guess they had the right deck. Zero interest in the security rocks. I don't know why. I think maybe just because I've been influenced by stay out of red green
Yeah,
early.
it's a good option. It's a good piece of advice.
Same thing for light 'em up, like I said before. I actually ended up taking the Girder Goons
Yep,
here.
that's what I would do as well. So just quickly on Corpse Explosion, just making sure that because a lot of words in this card, it is a total field wipe. Just making sure that because you said a removal spell. I'm not sure you knew that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
got
yeah,
it.
yeah. So it does actually kill everything, which is,
Oh, I see. Like I said, zero experience with it. Okay.
it's a pretty decent card. I wouldn't take it here because it's more for like, if you end up in like a Grixis Maestro C control deck, it is pretty good there. That's not like a super commonplace, at least I find myself these days. And also just the flexibility of taking, a monocolor card is really good here. So I would take the Girder Goons over the Corpse Explosion. That would be my second pick, though. It is a powerful card. And then, yeah, probably followed by like the Maestros Land or Pyre Sledge Ursus. The rest of the pack is not that exciting. But Girder Goons is fantastic, so I totally agree
Okay.
with that.
I think I lucked into that agree just by misreading the card, but
No, so you think Nathan would have been like, ooh, a field wipe? I take that.
yeah, I think if it was a wipe, if I knew it was a wipe, I probably would have gone
All
there.
right, let's move on to pick 3 here. Thoughts on this pack?
A lot of good black-red cards, and cleanup crew is sitting there as well. I honestly, and civil servant pick three. I mean, I honestly wasn't sure here, so I was probably leaning between body dropper or the cleanup crew. I've had the cleanup crew a couple times, and that's been pretty strong. So I went with that, but I'm really unsure of this pick.
Yeah, I would also do that too. So, I mean, you've got the Broker's Hideout, you've got the Girder Goons. Girder Goons doesn't necessarily go with Cleanup Crew, but early on, my default is still, even though people know that Brokers and Green and White and Blue are quite good, my default is still try to get into that deck if I can, right? And then when, the packs go on, maybe the wheel comes back around, I get a bit more information about what the table's doing. Maybe there's 6 people trying to do the same thing, and on the wheel, I know that, like, I see the really bad green and white and blue cards are gone. I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But early on, if I can take a good green, blue, or white card, that's what I'm going to do. And I think Cleanup Crew is the best one. Like, Civil Servant is a 2-drop. That's important. In the set, 2-drops are quite important. Body Dropper is another good 2-drop, but of course not in those colors. And so I would just take the flexible good card here in Cleanup Crew. I really like Cleanup Crew. It's one of the better uncommons, I'd say. All right, let's move on to the next pick here. Pick 4. So we got 3 agrees in a row. We want to pick 4. What do we see here?
We're probably not going to get an agree here. That's the best I can do. Um, I honestly was looking at the 2 uncommons here, the Silencer or the Venom Connoisseur.
Yeah.
The Venom Connoisseur is a 2-drop that goes with my other green card. The Rafine Silencer is a removal card, kind of that goes with Girder Goons. I ended up taking the Connoisseur, as you can see there, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so I would say this is a mistake. So I mean, it's a light mistake. I just think the Venom Connoisseur, while 2-drops are important, I just think it's a dorky enough 2-drop that it doesn't matter that much. Like you very rarely get the second trigger where all your creatures get Death Touch, and even when you do, it's not that impactful. So mostly it's like a 2-minute 2/2 Death Touch on attacks, which Death Touch is like mostly a defensive ability. So I would lean a few directions here. A few directions you could go. Rafine Silencer, totally fine. More defensive card. Nothing, I don't want it in my like Rakdos aggro decks, but it's a good defensive card in like a slower blue black deck. There's Spar's Adjudicators, the fixer here. I think that would be totally serviceable to take. I think I would probably just land on the best monocolored card in the pack though, which I think is Make Disappear. The 2-mana counterspell here. It just does a lot. It just fills in your 2-drop slot. You can cast it later in the game where it's just like, okay, well, my opponent casts their 6-drop and I get to nab that. There's the cycle, this cycle of family fixers where you can nab those. You see those coming. So I think Make Disappear is probably the best card in the pack. It being blue is also a big part of that. Rafine Silencer is up there as well, but I would probably lean on the Make Disappear myself. All right, moving on to pick 5 here. Thoughts on this pack?
No idea again in this pack. I think I was choosing between the Sizzling Soloist, but I didn't really have a reason to go red. The Corrupt Court Official, just because I already had black. And I don't know that I was looking at too much else, so I ended up taking the Court Official.
Yeah, so I think this is a fine pick here. I might have taken the Warm Welcome or the Court Official. Like, both are kind of close. You're kind of going in this odd black-green path here,
Yeah,
which is not exactly
here,
where we want to be in this format. But, it's fine. We have plenty of time to course correct. So I think the 3 cards that I would be looking at are the Soloist, like you mentioned, the Court Official, and the Warm Welcome. Soloist is a good card, but of course in kind of a not-so-great color, so that devalues it slightly for me. I think I would just land on what you did, though, the Court Official. Like, Warm Welcome is a card that I like in my deck quite a bit when I, have Citizen Matters cards, the Civil Servant, stuff like that. B, have cards I really want to dig to. Cleanup Crew, that counts as that, so that, like, pulls me a little bit that direction, but I'm more talking, like, rares, Or C, have things that, make me want tokens. I have the shovel that pumps my citizens, stuff like that. I guess that counts as a citizen payoff, but anything that, like, I can augment a small creature and send it in, and then next turn, augment another small creature, send it in. We have none of that currently, so I think I'll just take the Court Official here. And I think outside of Broker specifically, like green-white, green isn't one of the better colors, so if I'm to make a decision between black cards and green cards, I'd probably go towards the black cards, and so I'm a thumbs up here on the Court Official.
Great. Yeah, my experience with Warm Welcome is like I've been able to get like a million of them every draft.
Yeah.
I don't know why. They just keep tabling.
It's not a card that goes in every deck, and it's not a card that I think looks all that appealing to most people. I think I like it more than most, honestly. But then again, I often probably only play it when it's good. Only when those situations I just described arise. But it's a fine card. All right, now we get to pick 6 here, and what do we see?
So I thought this was a cool pack. There was the Celestial Regulator, if I wanted to go, blue white. That seemed like a strong card. Echo Inspector I've had good experience with as well. And I mentioned at the beginning in the very first pack the Dust Mangler, and I was
Hmm.
like, this seems strong. I'm already in black green, even though it shouldn't be black green.
Yeah.
And so I took the Mangler here, but I'm not confident on this one again.
Yeah, this one's close. So Echo Inspector is great. Celestial Regulator is great, but kind of away from what you're doing here. I think I would be on the Dusk Mangler as well. Like, I've had a lot of questions about this card when I take it on stream. When people are like, "So, how do you plan to get this card in play?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna tap 7 lands, and I'm gonna cast the card because I don't know. I think a lot of people think fast format. How are you gonna cast a 7 drop? Fast format doesn't mean you can't have slower or more expensive cards. It just means you need to make sure you're ready for that early game, right? If you're going to cast these expensive cards. Dusk Mangler is a fantastic card to cast early. It's great to to cast late if you have that good early game. It's great to recur with Dig Up the Body or Fake Your Own Death. Really, really like this card. I think pick one, pack one. I would probably be on the Echo Inspector, just being, a cheaper card, and I think blue is a little bit better than black. But with your pile right now, I really like the Mangler, so I would take that. All right, moving on to pick 6 here. What do we see?
For me, it was really between trying to again maybe look at blue with Run Out of Town or just taking the black red land in case I end up, not being Golgari. So I took the black red land.
Yeah, I think hedging against being Golgari is probably a smart thing to do. Yeah, I think so. Run Out of Town is quite good. I really like this card, and it's really undervalued. I think maybe that's a reason to not take it here, but I this is would be a disagree for me, not so much a mistake. I mean, I think that the land is totally fine to take here. I would just now, with my green cards, Cleanup Crew is good, but it's not like a huge draw when with them if I'm not seeing other green cards, right? I think given my black cards here, I'd probably be trying to move into some sort of blue-black deck. I think that's my favorite black color combination. And Run Out of Town is a powerful card. It's a good interaction spell. So that would be my pick here, but the land is totally fine as well.
I mean, I guess for full transparency for, people watching this, I'm still not 100% confident on what the three colors are for the families outside
Hmm.
of brokers, just because everything has been so brokers. I'm like, all right, what does black green go with? I don't think it goes with anything. All right, wait, and I'm having to figure this out on the fly. I probably should just write down a cheat sheet that's like, this two color pair goes with this family or this family. This two color, like I almost want to write that down, but
Yeah, and to your credit here, the black red land is the one you would want because black, red, green, like black and green only go in one family, and that's the black, red, green one. All right, let's move on to pick 8 here. And what do we see?
a bunch of other cards and then a glamorous outlaw, and I took the outlaw.
Yeah, similar here. I think I would just take the Run Out of Town. I think it's totally
Okay.
fine. Like, it's still not too late. I don't think you need to move into blue. I think Glamorous Outlaw is fine, but unless you're exactly Grixis or Maestros, whatever you want to call it, it's not going to fix you. And maybe you could be going that direction. That's certainly something that you could do. But if I'm, trying to navigate this draft, I'm probably trying to get into a 2-color lane rather than a 3-color lane early on.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I would just take the Run Out of Town. It's a little more flexible in my opinion. Also, just a little more of a better card, honestly.
Just curiosity. So if you take the blue card and you're trying
Yeah.
to get into a two color, your two colors are blue black, right?
Hmm.
I mean, isn't Glamorous Outlaw just part of that as well, or would you just want to be pure two colors?
So I would love to be 2 colors if I can. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes you need to splash a third color, or sometimes you want to splash a third color because you have a good rare or a good uncommon, especially in in Bant or in my brokers. There's a lot of those, but then there's some in Maestros as well. Corpse Appraiser is pretty darn good.
Okay.
So I see Outlaw more as a like, oh, I know I'm these colors already, or most of these cards I use, these 3-color family fixtures is I know I'm these colors already. I want to take this card to fix my mana to have a decent top end card. It's less, oh, this is a good card. I want to take it and I want to move in because of that. Is my
Got
the
it.
one that's the exception is Spar's Adjudicator, the broker's one. That is a card I actually actively want in my deck. But the other four, I'm just like, okay, like I'll pick that up once I'm kind of already there.
I think my takeaway so far in this is I'm undervaluing blue black as a combination. Looking like I've never drafted it. I've only ever seen the what is the two drop that gets lifelink
The
newsy or
Newsy
something like
Newsy.
yeah. So I think I'm just not aware. I need to get more experience with blue black here. I think that's the answer.
So it's kind of funny because I think blue black is decent, solid, not amazing. I think maybe for me the thing is maybe it's underrating the blue cards in general because
Yeah,
I see 2 Run Out of Towns. I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. I love Run Out of Town.
yeah.
Like I said, it's a little undervalued and maybe it's a reason not to need to take it early. But I'm happy with like 3 copies, 4 copies of that card in my deck.
Well, you would at this point have the make disappear in two run out of towns.
That as well, yeah, that as well.
Yeah.
All right, and back to our wheel pack. Our good friend, the Dusk Mangler, comes all the way back around. I guess you're pretty excited to see that.
Yeah, I think I snap it off here.
Yeah, totally. And now for sure, you know, the worries about two 7 drops do start to creep in a little bit, but at the same time, like, I think it's totally fine to have 2 7s, especially 7 as good as this one. Now we get to back to this pack. So this is a pack where, now that the wheels come back, we've seen 2 wheels packs now. I am happy that we're in the lane we are, not brokers, that is, because all of the brokers cards have been taken, right? Even the kind of bad ones, the ones that are just like, whatever, like it's a green card, I guess I'll take it, or it's a blue card, I guess I'll take it,
the
And we're left with
Palladia Strong Arm is gone, the Celebrity Fencer's gone, the Sewer Crocodile's gone.
yeah, Sewer Crocodile, Celebrity Fencer, those are not good cards, so somebody's chosen to take those over. These aren't amazing cards here, but Parcel Journalist has high upside, and there's Maestro's Theater, which is a good card. So I think, you're in definitely the right lane for your seat. But what do we take here in this pack?
I took the Arsonist. I just wanted to get some experience with it in case I went down that route.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now that we've had some distance, I probably would have landed on the Theater.
Yeah, I think I would do that too. So I would classify this as a mistake, most likely, because Arsonist is kind of a good payoff. It's like, okay, I have this card in my deck with a bunch of treasure or a bunch of ways to sacrifice naturally, maybe casualty cards, maybe body droppers. It's not so much a card I want to take and build around, I would say. It's a little bit, to ask a little bit too much of your deck. You kind of have to, like, a lot of the cards that make you sacrifice or want you to sacrifice aren't the premium cards. They're kind of like filler-ish cards. So you have a lot of cards in your deck that are just like, okay, I could make this work with the Arsonist, but I don't want to be drafting a bunch of cards to work with the Arsonist. It's kind of like, well, let's just slot this in a deck that's already good. And the Maestro's Theater is really, really premium here. Just, you've already got this Outlaw, which you might be playing. You're in black, so it's very likely you're going to want this land anyway, wherever you end up, unless you do end up black-green somehow. But yeah, I think the Maestro's land is going to open up your directions that you can go here. All right, move to this pack.
I didn't know that this mattered too much. I mean, I still had green, and I just took the green 2-drop, but I wasn't really.
Yeah, I don't think it matters here too much. I mean, I don't hate Backstreet Bruiser, but we get to this pack though. We got to dig up the body. That's a nice pickup, nice little grindy card.
Yeah, I snagged that.
Well, let's just pause here. So, what's Nathan thinking? What direction do we think we might be heading?
I was thinking that the green would be dropped. Like we said, it's dried up. There's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking black, red, splash blue. That's where I was at this point.
Yeah, something in that neighborhood, I think. And we'll see where the pack 2 brings us. I think you could go a few directions, but I agree that the green has definitely dried up, and that's probably not a direction I want to go. So we open this pack. We see a Toulouse, which is a pretty good card. It could even be cast. It was blue and black mana specifically, and not too much else in this pack. Like, I don't know. I'm curious to hear your take here before I give mine.
No, your take is exactly. I had to read Toulouse quite a bit and then look at the mana symbols. I'm like, am I close to this? I don't think I'm close to this. The Nimble Arsonist, not close to. Rocco, not close to. So really, like, we're looking at all these commons, and I landed on, all right, I'll just take the 2-drop removal spell, light them up, but I wasn't really in love with that pick. Maybe the Custodian.
So I think I would take the Toulouse here. So you're not that far away from it. If you're blue, black, like you end up blue, black, you could be playing that, right? That's not that hard. And Toulouse is not like a bomb by any means, but a really, really solid card. I think the other options in this pack are Crowbar, Citizen's Crowbar, which is a good card, but again, you're pretty far away from that. And then like another run out of town you could take. Light 'em Up is, I think, just the most replaceable removal spells. I even might take Crooked Custodian over that, just as like a decent.
I was looking at the
2-drop.
Custodian.
Yeah, Custodian's not a bad card, but I think you can kind of pick these kind of cards up a little bit later. Toulouse is maybe a little bit out of the zip code of what you're doing here, but it's powerful enough that I would just take it and say, okay, maybe I'll be blue black.
I mean, I think this is a good case in point where you would have drafted this seat better. You would have more blue cards already, so then this card wouldn't be that far out of your wheelhouse. Whereas for me, I'm like, it's either triple blue or blue, black, and I have 0 blue cards.
Right, yeah. And, like, I guess my thing here is, even if you just slot me into this seat right now, I kind of go, oh, you know what? I could play double blue. Given how pack 1 went, there was enough blue cards in there. At least, the undervalued ones anyways, the run out of towns. Like, I can play, a bunch of black cards and run out of towns that wheel or whatever, and I'm happy with that. So even though, like I was saying, kind of the Sewer Crocodile level cards weren't wheeling, I think there's enough of the good blue cards that people undervalue like Run Out of Town, like Make Disappear, that even if it's not that open, you tend to get those kind of cards late. So I guess that's a little bit of a nuanced thing that my gut is pushing me towards saying, like, it's okay to take the plunge into blue because I know I'm going to get some good cards anyways.
Looks like I can salvage this draft.
Yeah, exactly. I can make something out of this. All right, so I would classify that as a mistake. Let's move on to pick 2 here. So we got, well, some decent stuff actually. What are your takes on this pack?
Well, if you're going down the blue-black route, you have the tower, but I didn't even look at that because I'm not down that route. I ended up pretty much just looking at the Riveteer's Charm and the Body Dropper,
Yeah.
and I went with the Body Dropper.
Yeah, so if you're, Nathan, your direction you're going here is black-red. That's like, you're like, okay, well, I'm positing myself as I'm probably that. And that's still totally fine card to take, especially with the cards you picked up, right? Like, I think now is the part of the draft where we kind of shift the conversation a little bit between what I would do and what you would do. It's more like, all right, we're in Nathan's seat now. How do we maximize on that? The navigation side, I would have done a little bit different, but let's actually figure out what to do from this part. And I think, like you said, I can maybe do a black-red sacrifice thing. You've got the Plier Sledge Arsonist. Body Dropper is like such a premium 2-drop for that deck. And, it's, there's real pressure on you in this format to make sure you pick up a bunch of good 2-drops. And especially if you're in an openish lane, Body Droppers will tend to come to you a little bit later, right? And I think you are in a lane that is open enough for black-red that I'm happy to move in here and, hopefully we'll get even more of them. So yeah, I big time agree with this pick.
Okay. That's the first agree in a while. Did it.
Yeah. All right, moving on to pack 3 here. What do we see?
2 Maestro's cards that I was trying to choose between, the Cormela or the Maestro's Charm.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up on the Glamour Thief here, but is there anything else I should be looking at, or did I miss something?
So yeah, there is actually. I would say Involuntary Employment is a card that I would look at and probably actually take here. So here's some thoughts. By taking Cormela or Maestro's Charm, you're pushing yourself into a 3rd color. That's not the worst thing in the world. It's not like I can't be in a 3rd color. That the set is kind of set up to do that. But I always still like to be as clean on the mana as possible, as close to 2 colors as I can, right? And especially in black-red, which is an aggressive deck, you don't want your mana to be stretched more than it has to be, right? And so I think that Cormela and Maestro's Charm, fine cards, but not quite the level that makes me go, oh, this is good enough to make me want to add a 3rd color here. And voluntary or involuntary employment is really, really good in this kind of deck, right? Just being able to go steal it, sack it to... Look how many sack outlets you have. You have Body Dropper, light them up, dig up the body. I'm sure you're going to pick up some more. If you do the 10 mana combo, you have Involuntary Employment, Dusk Mangler. That's not going to happen very often, but I would just take the monocolored card here. I think it's super powerful, and I think it's perfect for this deck.
Okay. If you weren't going to take that, which of the 2 Maestro's cards would you land on?
Probably Cormela. I mean, Maestro's Charm is a fine card. It's a good removal spell. But Cormela... So Cormela makes a lot of sense if you think you're going to be a bit grindier. And maybe with the 2 Dusk Manglers, you do push towards that. It's a really powerful card to just come down, sits. It's kind of funny because it has haste, but it just sits there. It's really threatening because you're like, your opponent's like, I've got, my opponent's got a lot of good spells in the yard. I don't really want to kill this thing. I don't really want to attack through it, or because they're going to block it and kill my creature, get back a spell. So it's a really good grindy card. Also plays particularly well with Dig Up the Body, because you can actually do loops with Cormela, where you like loop Cormela, dig up the body, dig her back up, and you can just keep going and going. Also works with my good friend, what was it? It's Fake Your Own Death, right? It also works with that. You can just keep buying back Fake Your Own Death with her. So she does a lot of good things, and I don't think it's a bad pick. I just think in the path you're on right now, I wouldn't dip into blue just yet. Which is very funny, because I was saying the entire pack one, I would probably dip into blue.
Yeah, well, you'd be a different seat at this point.
All right, pick 4 here. We see yet another Dust Mangler. I'm curious, though. Do we take it?
I didn't. I think that was too many 7 drops. I read the Cemetery Tampering. I want to get your thoughts on it, but to me, it's a no.
Yeah, I think it's just strictly unplayable. Pretty much. It doesn't do anything good, yeah.
Inspiring Overseer, but I think we're pretty far from that.
Yeah.
So, to me, I was looking at the Soloist or the land, the district.
Yep.
Again, because I'm more blue than you would have been at this point, I guess. I'm more tricolor than you would have been at this point. But I went with the Soloist just to try to get to, just black-red if possible.
Yeah, I think that's smart here. It depends how much you really want to play your Carmella or your Glamorous Outlaw. I'm not, me and Missy, I'm not that tied to it. And just like you said, just stay mono red here. I also think it's not terrible to take in Firing Overseer here. Like I've
Really,
been
this late?
yeah, I've been black, red, white a decent amount in this format, or just like straight black, white. And look, you have to pick up the specific lands. The specific land being Obscura Storefront here. That's the black, white land, or you can pick up Cabaret Courtyard actually, the red, white one that actually works as well. But Inspiring Overseer is such a good card that it is worth splashing, even in decks that just by design don't naturally fit it in, like even in your black red deck. So I would consider it if the Solos wasn't here.
Got it. Man, I don't know that I have the skill set for that yet, so I'll stick to I barely know the families, much less the non-families.
Yeah. All you need to know is that Inspiring Overseer is just like really busto good. and
I know that much. That's been preached. I hear that.
We move on to pack 5 here, and we see a Nightclubber, which Nathan slams, but there's also a Grudergoons in the pack, which is fine. But Nightclubber's awesome, so we don't need to talk about that too long. I would definitely slam that as well. All right, we got pick 6 here, and I wonder if we didn't take the first involuntary employment, do we take the second one?
We do take the second.
Okay,
one.
we do take so you did catch on. Hey, maybe this can actually be a thing in my deck. Good.
Yep.
I'm proud, Nathan. Well, I think the other thing is there's nothing that amazing in this pack here, right?
It's I think it's partly that too. I mean, I kind of defaulted in it. The Vampire Scrivener, I've never seen it played. Is it like good, like at all playable in this format?
No, like you have to have like lifelink, or there's that like Cutthroat Contender, which you can pay a life to give it +1, but that card's pretty unplayable too. So it's just not worth it. It starts out too small. Even if you have ways to grow it, it's just way too small.
Yeah, I mean a 5-mana 2/2 just seems terrible.
Yeah, it's just not good. All right, we move on to this pack here, pack 7. Ooh, there's my good friend. Fake Your Own Death. Do we take it? Let's see.
I did take it, but there's also an Overseer here too. Just FYI. What would you have done if you'd taken the previous Overseer? What would you have taken here?
I would still take Fake Your Own Death because I do think it's really important to this deck. I think it does a lot of really good things. Moving on to this pack, we see probably just take the Dig Up the Body number 2, I assume. Yeah, nice. Yep. All right, so we're getting to the easier parts of the pack. Custodian Wheels, that's kind of nice. A good 2-drop. Yep, happy about that.
I was my experience with the Custodian was I didn't like that it came into play tapped, and I thought that would be terrible. But honestly, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, it hasn't mattered all. It doesn't matter all that much, right? Like, especially if you're not playing to block with your 2-drop in your aggressive deck, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, just like you play it on 2, you attack with it on 3.
That's me reading what that land is, but I ended up taking the run out of town.
We get to Maestro's Charm. Oh, we slam the second right. So this is interesting, right? I don't think it's clear which one you should take here, the Maestro's Charm or the Involuntary Employment. If you think you're moving towards a grindy deck, Maestro's Charm makes a little more sense, I think. But if you want to move towards the more aggressive deck, which I think your deck is looking a little more like that, if you just, take the Cormella out, I think the second employment probably makes a little more sense here.
Yeah, having played the games with this deck, I would, in this seat again, take the Involuntary Employment.
The other thing, too, is you don't have a lot of fixing right now, right? So you got the one tramway station, you got the Glamorous Outlaw. It's going to be actually pretty hard to cast your 3-color cards in this deck, right? So I would just take, again, the flexible monocolor card. Makes the mana just a little bit smoother. All right, last parts of the pack here. Not going to matter too much. We take a bunch of,
Did you want your 15th run out of town?
Yeah, exactly. There we go. They do. What I say, they come around, they wheel. And pack 3 here. So what do we see?
So I narrowed it down to Torch Breath, Unlucky Witness, or Body Dropper as the 3 that I was looking at. Torch Breath I was unsure of, just because it feels like if it's not a blue card you're targeting, it's a lot of mana just to kill something. Yeah, so I went with the safe Body Dropper, but what would you have done?
Yeah, I would have done the exact same thing. Torch Breath, your read on this is right. It's pretty medium, right? It's a fine removal spell, but it's just nothing special, right? It's nothing you have to prioritize. It's like you said, you're trading down on mana if you're not targeting a blue creature. It's a good deal if you're targeting a blue creature, but whatever. I don't care that much. And I really do care about locking in another premium too, especially if you do have, that involuntary employment, you want to lock in some more sack outlets as well. So yeah, big agree on that one for me.
A question on a card in that pack real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
You see me checking my creature count there. I've gotten beaten down by that double striker with security bypass on it a lot. Is that a real thing in this format?
Oh yeah. So you're talking about the there's 2 double strikers. There's the Illuminator Virtuoso and there's
Illuminator,
the Duelist, right? The Bant Duelist. I mean, if you've got that and you've got there's a bunch of There's Majestic Metamorphosis, which is also in this pack. There's 2 protection spells in the format. There's kind of a double strike combo deck floating around that you can definitely draft. And Security Bypass, yeah, big part of that deck. So it's a real thing. It's not just your opponent did something weird. It's something that I do quite often, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing grows so quickly because every time you hit, it connives, and you put a +1/+1 counter on it. It just gets
And you get to
bigger
go
and
like
bigger.
double strike the first time hits, and then on the second hit, it's even bigger, right? In the same combat,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny. All right, moving on to pack 2 here. So we got a nice little red-black deck shaping up here.
In terms of our colors, you have Murder,
Yep.
Rob the Archives. That's about it.
That's about
but
it.
I wanted to ask you about this Unleash the Inferno. Like, obviously, I have a couple blue cards here, but I could just as easily be blue, black, green.
Yep.
Is Unleash the Inferno any good?
It's fine. It's worse than Murder, I would say. Like, sometimes
Okay.
you nab an enchantment. Like, if you can nab an enchantment or artifact with it, it's great. It is better than Murder, but most of the time you don't get to. So Murder is just much easier to cast, and it does the job. Just pretty much, it does 90% of the job most of the time. So I would just take Murder over it here. And in general, mostly. There's also Deal Gone Bad, which is just worse than Murder. Rob the Archives, which you mentioned, is mostly unplayable. I mean, it just takes a lot to make this work. You go 2 mana, exile the top 2 cards of your library, you can play them. It's only this turn, though. It's not...
Yeah, this turn kind of sucks.
Yeah,
huh?
it's not like the Impulse card from Crimson Vow, where it's like next turn. If your deck is like super, super low cost, you can go on turn 6, cast this, and then you get to, look at a few cards. Maybe you probably cast one, maybe you play a land, but it's just not a great card. So I would just jam the Murder here.
You see me looking at them like, what does this card do?
Yeah. And looks like... Does Nathan do the same? Yeah,
I
Nathan
took
did the
Murder.
same.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. All right, we move on to pack 3 here. Pick 3, pack 3. And not a ton. We got this Shadow of Mortality, which is kind of a funny rare. We've got another Lighten 'em Up, which is, I think, what I'd probably take here. Nothing too exciting. Yeah, there's the Wrecking
That's what
Crew,
I took. Okay.
which is like sort of interesting. Just a big ol' 4/5 trample reach, but I would take the Lighten Up. It works pretty well with the Body Dropper X2 as well, because you can grow your creatures when you sacrifice. So I like it.
Cool. I definitely have run flyers into that Wrecking Crew because it has, red doesn't have reach normally, so sneaky reach.
It has Sneaky Reach, yeah. It's the most powerful ability, Sneaky Reach. All right, pick 4 here. What do we
threw
see?
some flyers away. We have in our colors not a whole lot. We have the Waterfront District for fixing. We have the Riveteers Initiatives, just a 2-drop, or the Grizzly Sigil, and I took the Sigil.
Yeah, I would do that too. So it really depends on if you're going to play your blue cards or your red cards, or sorry, your blue cards or not. And if you're not going to play your blue cards, then don't worry about the District. But if you think you want to play your blue cards, District's probably what you need here. But I totally agree. Sigil's just a pretty nice card in your deck. Decent removal spell. You don't have a ton of sacrifice fodder just yet, but it's fine to sack one if you're like a Corrupted Court Official, or even just like a 2-drop that's kind of outstayed its welcome. Ooh, okay.
So here I took the creature, and I think I remember doing this here. I think it was because my creature count was somewhat low.
Yeah.
Because I looked at the Fake Your Own Death.
Yeah, if you're in, so I have to do a quick creature count here. Why don't we just do that? So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's not count the blue cards. 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, you're in the neighborhood where you should just take a creature over the Fake Your Own Death. As much as I love that card, I think you're totally right to do that. Even though, Woody Roastmaster is not an amazing card. It's a fine card, but I think you do need to at least get to that, 13-ish creature range in this kind of aggressive deck.
So I think the next one's going to be a mistake. I was thinking I was blue-black, red. Well, you keep talking like if you play these blue cards. In my mind, I was definitely playing them, so I ended up taking the Outlaw here. But, given the coaching in this session, I probably should have landed on the Mayhem Patrol or the Silencer.
Yeah, Mayhem Patrol is fantastic. Just like premium 2-drop, especially with the Body Droppers. Silencer is a good card, like I mentioned before, but more for a slower deck. I think you've got the setup to make Mayhem Patrol really, really quite good. So yeah, I would take the Mayhem Patrol here.
Okay, so I put down as a mistake.
Yeah, I'd say that's a mistake. All right, pick 7 here.
Custodian or Plasma Jockey. I didn't really even look. I read Fatal Grudge, and I was like, no, that doesn't seem like where I want to be. So I took the Plasma Jockey.
I would probably lean on the cheaper card here, the Custodian, but it's close. I don't feel too strongly. Plasma Jockey is a nice card too. Honestly, you've got 2 Body Droppers, a Custodian, a Corrupted Court Official. Yeah, I think I'd probably take the 2-drop. Just I think you want 1 or 2 more in your aggressive deck here. If you had your 6 or 7 2-drops, I do think Plasma Jockey is the slightly more powerful card. But yeah, I think you just gotta lock in one or two more 2-drops here. Fatal Grudge is
Okay.
a good card, by the way, if you've got enough like sacrifice fodder to make it. You've got enough court officials, you've got enough stuff you actively want to sack, but your deck not mostly doing that. I mean, it combos with the involuntary employment, I suppose. Another combo piece. But yeah, I think you're right that it's not really a card for this deck.
So I'll put that down as a mistake then.
Yeah, I would say it's a
Um,
mistake here. You gotta lock in those 2s.
Question in this pack as well. I have never played with or against Slip Out the Back. It
Hmm.
seems good, but I've never seen it played or I've never played it. What's the verdict on it?
So I was just talking about that double strike combo deck. Great card there, right? So you can
Okay.
save your own creatures when you cast your pump spells, or you can get a blocker out of the way on the last turn of the game, right? That's another use case for this card, especially because phasing doesn't get rid of auras, so you can put your security bypass on your double strike creature and then phase it out if they go for a removal spell, and you get to keep your aura. So that's kind of nice.
Oh, and it's target creature, not. It doesn't have to be your own creature. I didn't
Yep,
even
it
think
can
about
be
getting rid of a
anybody's.
blocker.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
Also,
clever.
the +1/+1 counter that matters too. Just growing your
Sure.
creature a little
Yeah.
bit. All right.
Um,
So last parts of the pack here. Rounding at the draft, so probably not too many interesting decisions. We just take an uncommon for the collection. There's nothing.
no, I actually reconsidered. I was like, I should take a 2-drop.
Okay, yeah,
I
yeah,
might.
totally. Hell Scarab's not a bad one. Oh, here's one I would have done differently. I think I would take Antagonize here. Antagonize is a lot of damage. A lot of damage in your aggressive deck. Hold on, let's go back to this pack here. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I took the Wrecking Crew over it. Yeah.
Yeah. So before maybe you were a little bit too low on creatures and you just need to take your creature. I think the last few picks we kind of got to enough creatures, and Antagonize is one of the better tricks for these kind of decks. Like it's
Okay.
gonna win pretty much any combat, and on an unblocked creature, just like on a body dropper, go last turn of the game, give my body dropper menace, and they go, okay, I can't really block it, and you just like deal them 10 or something. Yeah, I think Antagonize would be what my pick would be here.
Got it. I put that down as a mistake then.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, now we get to the last parts of the pack here.
I think all the last picks are irrelevant in my opinion, but you let me know. I'm literally just checking to see like what do I have for the collection.
Yeah, let's
here.
just. I think there's nothing too important here. So we take that. We take whatever Chrome Cats, and then we take Rob the Archives, Daring Escape. Oh, there is actually a pick here. Quick Draw
Okay.
Dagger is what I would have taken. Oh, you do take it there. Okay,
I
never
did.
mind,
Yeah, I
sorry.
took the dagger. Yeah,
But
that card's
that's
actually been impressive.
Yeah, the dagger is good, especially if you have a lot of good 2-drops in your deck. So as we close out here, let's look at the build. So here's your build here, and you do end up playing the blue cards. And here's my issue is playing the blue cards here. You got to run a bunch of islands. A bunch of islands in this mostly red-black deck is super, super painful, right? You're gonna have some non-functional draws a lot of the time, I would say.
Which I did.
Yeah.
I think I can tell you this deck went, I think 4-3. No, 5-3.
Not bad.
Yeah, I definitely ran into mana issues, and I think, I don't think I would have made the connection with the blue here is probably not strong enough to play. I don't think I would have made that connection before I was talking through this, so this is good. I would nix the blue.
Yeah.
And then just run go black red. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you have to play some kind of low rate cards in your board there that are like, you'd maybe prefer not to play them, but I think it's better than making the mana situation as bad as it is. So that's my big thing here. I don't feel too strongly about any of the cards being, super out of place. I think they mostly look in place here, but yeah, like, mana is such a silent killer, and you got to make sure it's clean.
Well, you would have had over the Chromela, you would have had the involuntary employment, so that's one blue source gone. The Maestro's Charm Wield, and the Glamorous Outlaw. I ended up picking up 2 of them and only playing 1 of them here. You're basically only going to, if you had been in this seat and we ignored all the blue cards you would have taken in the first pack, you would have ended up with just 2 blue cards, then you could easily found better fodder than what I put in there.
Also, I think in your final build here, if you do have 2 outlaws, you should probably play the 2 outlaws to make sure you can cast your spells a little more often, right? They do, they are kind of last chance or last resort fixing, I would say, where it's like, okay, I didn't pick up the lands, but if you don't have the lands, then they do get the job done at the cost of
what would you have done
mana.
there? Because I was running into that. Like, would you have? I guess the way to do it would be cut the Demon's Due and add the Outlaw in.
Yep, that's probably the worst card in this deck, I would say.
Okay.
Yep. All right, well,
Okay.
Nathan, let's pack up here. Any last minute takeaways?
No, I think I think I'm victim of falling into the, hey, this is a tricolor set. You really want to play tricolors, even though I've heard you and everybody else preach you want to be two colors and or just two colors with a splash, which is what I considered myself here.
Hmm.
But even this was probably a bit much without good fixing. So I need to really focus on getting the two colors down.
All right, Nathan, thank you so much once again for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Hope everybody enjoyed. Peace out, everybody.
Thanks, guys.